The S9 Plus is just 1% behind, whereas the P20 Pro with its huge 4000 mAh cell dropped just 4%. Now let's move on to our first game, Modern Combat 5. I'm going to let this run for an hour, and being quite a graphically demanding game, it should have a big impact on the batteries. A couple of cups of tea and 1 hour later and we're back. And as expected, this has drained the batteries quite significantly. The U12 Plus, OnePlus 6 and S9 Plus are all in their 60s now, with OnePlus 6 now in last place, which I didn't really expect. Next up, we've got Instagram. I'm keeping it on the home page for another hour to simulate our daily usage of social media apps. So now we're 3 hours into this battery test, and the S9 Plus is actually in last place, just, with the Pixel 2 XL and iPhone X in joint second place, and the P20 Pro still leading the pack. Now this is obviously quite an intensive battery test, so let's run another game. This time we've got Tekken, and annoyingly I've actually played some of it on my OnePlus 6, so it's a slightly different fight, but once again I'm going to run this test for a full hour. Wow, okay, so now 5 out of the 6 phones are under 50%. The U12 Plus did not like that at all, down to just 33% remaining. So we've done YouTube, Instagram, a couple of games, but let's move on to the camera battery test. I'm going to record 4K video for 30 minutes on each phone. Most of them are limited to 10-minute recordings, but I'll just run it 3 times. However, 18 minutes into this test and the HTC u12 Plus simply refuses to shoot in 4K anymore as it's overheating. No other phone is having this problem, and this thing is hot. I mean, almost too hot to hold, it's crazy. So for the last 10 minutes of this test, I'll have to shoot full HD video on the U12 instead. That's not great from the HTC. So then, after half an hour of video recording, the U12 Plus and the OnePlus 6 are now in the red zone. The S9 Plus is close behind though. Not all games are as demanding as, say, Modern Combat or Tekken, so let's see what 1 hour of Temple Run 2 will do. And quite a lot, it turns out. 3 phones are now in single digits, the U12 Plus is way out in last place with just 3% remaining. The iPhone X is holding its own, and the P20 Pro is, well, it's just in a different league to be honest. Now I was going to run a Geekbench test, but since most of the phones are now in their automatic power saving modes, they're not going to give an accurate result of their true performance. So let's go back to YouTube for another hour and see which is the first to run out of juice. And just 10 minutes later, coming in at 5 hours and 40 minutes, no surprises really, it's the HTC. The U12 Plus is the first to die, but just 17 minutes later, it's the Pixel 2 XL at 5 hours and 57. Considering the size of their batteries, I kind of expected them to last a little bit longer. But 20 minutes later, it's the Galaxy S9 Plus that goes next, putting it in third place at 6 hours and 23 minutes. But the OnePlus 6 is now just on 1%, and actually less than 30 seconds later, it runs out of juice as well. So both the S9 Plus and the OnePlus 6 called it a day at 6 hours and 23, so I'm going to call it a tie between those. And after the full hour of YouTube, the iPhone's on 4%, and the P20 Pro on a whopping 21%. Back into Modern Combat then, and it only takes 10 minutes for the iPhone X to finally run out, coming in at 6 hours 40, which means, and to be honest, it's really no surprise to anyone given their battery sizes, the Huawei P20 Pro is the winner, with 18% of its battery left, with all other phones out of the game. And actually, the P20 Pro survives another 1 hour and 8 minutes before it finally shuts off. So in terms of actual battery size versus relative real-world battery life, the iPhone X comes out on top. It has the smallest cell, and yet comes second in this test. But out of these 6 phones, you just can't beat Huawei's massive 4000 mAh cell, which just demolishes the competition. If you need a phone with the best battery life, definitely consider the P20 Pro. I have to say though, I am disappointed in the U12 Plus. It came last, and it had trouble with overheating while recording 4K video. I really do like the phone, although the digital touch-sensitive buttons really annoy me, but battery life just isn't one of its strengths. So there we have it. Did that surprise you? And which out of these phones would you go for? Let me know in the comments below. And make sure you click that like and subscribe button if you want to see more of these videos from me. I'm always changing up the lineup, so make sure you stay tuned for the next one. Thank you very much for watching guys, and I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.